The US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has met Egypt's military leaders. It follows Saturday's meeting with the new president, Mohamed Morsi, when she voiced support for Egypt's transition to democracy.
A scene unimaginable just 18 months ago. The U.S. Secretary of State seated next to the newly elected Islamist president of Egypt. The U.S. is watching what happens here very closely. Egypt is facing a power struggle between the new president Mohamed Morsi, once a member of the banned Muslim Brotherhood, and the country's military, reluctant to give up power.
Democracy is hard. It requires dialogue and compromise and real politics.
For 30 years, the U.S. supported Egypt's dictator Hosni Mubarak and showered its military with billions of dollars of aid. In return, Egypt became a staunch American ally in a volatile region that upheld an unpopular peace treaty with Israel. But now, after the revolution that toppled Mubarak last year, the U.S. is promising to support democracy, even if it means bringing into power Islamist political parties who for years have been Washington's strongest critics.
U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton praised the Egyptian people while also pressing for discussions between the president and the army.
Democracy is hard. It requires dialogue and compromise and real politics. We are encouraged and we want to be helpful, but we know that it is not for the United States to decide. It is for the Egyptian people to decide.
Morsi said Egypt will respect all peace treaties if the other party also respects them. The US has been concerned about what policies Morsi will adopt with regard to Israel as his power base, the Muslim Brotherhood, takes a tough stance on the country.
Not everyone was happy to see the American. Hundreds of angry protesters marched to the U.S. Embassy in Cairo to denounce her visit. They carried placards that accused the U.S. of letting the Palestinian militant group Hamas take over Egypt. They warned that Egypt will never be sold to foreign powers.
I think what the Secretary of State clearly wants to do is demonstrate Washington's support for a full democratic transition in Egypt. But of course, she has to walk a tight line here. The SCAF remains very much in control. Immediately after the elections, the generals gutted the power of the president. So she has to deal with both the head of state, is Mohamed Morsi is, and the power brokers behind the scenes. It's a difficult situation for the Secretary of State.